It's always good to be here with my buddy Ron Schultes that we don't get to share an office anymore, but this is the second time we've talked on Zoom today. So that's always fun. It feels like we're back in the old days, huh?
I know, and it's hopefully we're a little bit more serious in this video than we were in the one this morning. So,
Yeah, that was kind of a dumpster fire, but you know what? It takes all kinds. I wanted Ron to sit down and talk with me because last week we released a new research paper about innovation and what innovation in Tennessee could look like, does look like. But before we do that, let's take it back to I think it was January or February of 2019 when we sat down as a team and decided that innovation was something that we wanted to focus on as the Beacon team. Ron, kind of give us a little idea of why that is a priority and why we decided to go in that direction.
Yeah, so if you've been following Beacon for any period of time, you know we work on issues like taxes, licensing, other regulatory issues. And we decided to kind of step back as a team and say, what's the issue that unites all of these? Like what's upstream? And we kind of landed on it's government getting in the way of innovators, right? And whether that could be a really high tech person to somebody wanting to start a food truck in their city, right? It can run the gambit. And so we started looking through all of these issues through that lens. And as a part of that, when we kind of landed on that, we also realized we needed to start talking about kind of more of that high tech innovation side as well. And so that's why we've started to really do a lot of work in this space and how can Tennessee be the best place to start a business, the easiest place, the place where the next Elon Musk wants to start right here. And so instead of, always thinking that these things have to come out of California or, Seattle or Boston, why not here in Tennessee, whether it's Memphis to Mountain City, why not here? And what are the things that we need to do to make that happen?
I love it. I love it so much. So you wrote this paper, Back to the Future. I will give a shout out to our designer, Lauren. She made this thing look so sick. It's on our website. Check it out under our research tab. But Ron, if you could give me just a couple of either takeaways or action items, potentially for state leaders,
Sure.
coming from this report on innovation specifically, let's hear them. Hit me with them.
Well, first of all, to piggyback off of your shout out to Lauren, I also got to say my sci-fi tech titles throughout it are pretty
They
on
really
point.
are.
I'm not gonna lie. But then I think the main takeaway was, if you look at the last 15 to 20 years, right, our world has been totally upended by technology. I mean, these devices are only 12 years old, and think about how much,
Insane.
right, has changed about our lives. And it's totally made our productivity higher. I mean, we're having this conversation because of, the innovations in technology, but the growth associated with developing them has been very concentrated, right?
Yeah.
Like I mentioned, California, Boston, Seattle. And so if Tennessee's going to be a leader in the economy of tomorrow, it's got to be an innovation leader today. And so that's what we focused on. And
Write that
so
down.
there you go, right? So what are the policies in place that we can do to make sure that we have the best regulatory environment to be that innovation leader today? And what we kind of talk about is we want to have the strongest culture of a right to innovate, is the way we describe it, right? We talk about right to work here a lot. What about a right to innovate? What about the right to come up with the new business model that's going to shake things up? Give an example of like Uber. When Uber came onto the scene, a lot of cities have tried to shut it down. You look at San Fran, where it started, Austin, Texas. Tennesseans should have the right to innovate. And so how do we go about doing that? How do we go about creating that culture of a right to innovation and not having to get the government's permission to do something first? And so the number one policy that we talk about to at least start that, there's no one silver bullet, but you've heard us talk about it a lot here at Beacon, is talking about a regulatory sandbox. And so the idea,
I love that.
yes. And so a regulatory sandbox, to be really simple, is a way for a new entrepreneur who's got a new idea, whether it's a technology, business model, whatever. if there's some kind of regulation that gets in the way of them starting their business, they can essentially ask for a waiver from that regulation for a period of time in order to pilot test it. So it allows them to scale up, to not have onerous regulations inhibit them starting their business.
Mhm.
The average small business pays, I believe it's like $85,000 in regulations getting their business off the ground.
Wait,
So
Ron, even I didn't know that. That's
yeah,
insane.
well, that tells me you didn't read the report very much, Taylor. No, I'm just kidding. It's in
Listen,
there, you know.
sometimes.
But it's a massive cost, right? And so if you can reduce that to maybe like 5,000 or something, much smaller, there's always going to be costs in starting a business, but to reduce that regulatory cost, maybe who knows what's able to get off the ground now that wouldn't otherwise be able to. And then the idea is on the back end of that pilot test, the legislature can say, oh, these regulations tend to be getting in the way. Maybe we need to look at this, right? Maybe we need to look at this going forward, whether it needs to be just updating definitions with new technology or maybe getting rid of something altogether, right? And so it really creates that feedback mechanism and way to kind of observe what are the things that are getting in the way.
Well, I am so fired up that we're taking this on. It's such a fun thing to work on. Get online, read our paper. I'm going to link it here in the caption. Ron, thanks for chit chatting about it. If you have any questions, Ron, Jason, our whole team is here to answer. So if you have any questions on what we're doing on innovation, ask us. Stay tuned because we have some other really fun stuff coming up too with innovation. But Ron, thank you so much for talking to me today.
Awesome. Thanks for talking with me as well. So
See you later.